So a few weeks ago I did a video where I took the 13 Fishing Concept Z out into the field and I had a contest between its Czb Bushings against some cleaned Abu Garcia ball bearings. And basically my purpose was to see if these bushings would really give any kind of performance advantage over cleaned ball bearings in the same reel. Now, while technically the bushings did win that, the margin of victory was so small that in my mind I consider the results negligible. And that's because the wind was kind of blowing all sorts of directions, and the fact that, as I've stated before, the Concept Z has a really limited braking system that's pretty much behind everybody else. So fast forward a few weeks to today. Now I believe pretty soon 13 Fishing are going to be releasing their bushing packs for sale to the public to swap out the bearings and reels of people who buy them. And I am going to see if the bushings are going to provide better performance versus clean stock bearings in a reel that has a much better, much more adjustable, fine-tunable braking system. And of course that's going to have to be an Abu Garcia, because I know the bushings will fit on an Abu Garcia. So I kind of ran into a problem because the two Abu Garcias, the newest ones that I have, the Revo X and the Revo STX, both are going through standardized testing, and I don't want to clean their bearings out and give them an advantage over the other reels. So I kind of had to rack my brain as to what reel I could use. So I was digging around in my reel box, and I think I found the perfect reel for this test. And that is the Abu Garcia Revo Elite IB Generation 2. Let's take a look at this reel. Now, believe it or not, this was the very first JDM reel I ever bought from Japan, even before I bought any JDM Shimanos. I know that's hard to believe, but as you can see, this is the old body style, and yeah, this was the top of the line Revo back in the day, and this reel is probably pushing 10 years old. When I first got it, I fished the hell out of it, and then I got some other reels that seemed to perform better, and I kind of just forgot about this reel for quite a while. Now, the reason this is a perfect reel, once again, is because it's old, it's never been serviced. So the ball bearings, they're probably needing to be cleaned. And this has a very adjustable braking system. Let me show you what I mean. Now, this is probably the first generation of the dual brakes from Korea. You guys will recognize this. Well, some of you will. But this is basically the same braking system found in the Generation 2 Revo Premier. You got your 6 pins that you can turn on and off, and then you got your external magnetic adjustment here to control these magnets. And I'm sure a lot of you have not even seen this kind of magnet configuration because you're used to those round magnets being out here in the open, but those little silver and red dots are magnets, and this little bar, when you turn the handle, covers them up for adjustment. So that's how old this reel is. So what I did was, this very same day that I cleaned the METANIUM bearings, I took these bearings out and soaked them overnight with the METANIUM bearings in acetone, and they're spinning pretty good, as you can hear, hopefully. Yeah, so these bearings are ready to go, and as you can see, this has the short spool shaft. So another thing that I want to go over before we get to the field testing is that Tackle Tour had their review on the Concept Z, where the reviewer was having the same issue as a lot of people in the fact that the bushings were making a vibrating, buzzing noise really bad. And he noticed that it was happening after he handled these bushings, I guess to inspect them and to take pictures of them and whatnot. And I believe he rubbed off a lot of the lubrication that may have come on them. And I kind of suspected that myself, because after every single test where I had to take these bushings off and reapply them onto the reel, the buzzing and vibrating got progressively worse with each test. So what I'm going to do to give these bushings a fair shake, and I know a lot of you guys are probably like, well, you shouldn't have touched the bushings, you should have just left them alone, but oh well. I am going to go ahead and lube these. Put a drop of Abu Garcia oil, and then let them soak in this bag overnight so the oil can work its way into these bushings. So hopefully this will solve the vibrating issue and allow it to perform at its, well, I should say allow them to perform at their maximum tomorrow. So yeah, there we go. I'm going to stick these bushings in a reel that has a much better brake system to see if there's going to be any kind of performance gain to be had. And yeah, let's find out. Okay guys, I am out here with the Revo Elite IB trying to do the bearings versus Czb Bushings test. And right now I have the stock clean bearings in, and I was able to actually go down on the braking all the way to one internal brake on, and I think that's this one right here, and the rest of them are turned off. And I was actually able to go down to the minimum magnetic brakes as well, so all the magnets are covered up. The spool is still really controlled, which is surprising. I have the spool tension set to just to minimize the side-to-side play, and it's really windy out here, so I'm going to do my best to wait until the wind dies down before I make each cast to make it as even as possible. Alright guys, let's go. (123 feet 3 inches). (127 feet 9 inches). (122 feet 11 inches). (124 feet 2 inches). (121 feet 4 inches). (129 feet 6 inches). Okay guys, as you can see, I performed the swap to the Czb bushings, freshly oiled. So let's see what they do. Okay guys, next up we have the Czb bushings that you saw that I swapped them out. And we have the brake settings exactly the same. The very minimal setting, there's one internal brake on, this one right here. And then the magnetic setting is at the very minimum. And spool tension is also set just to minimize the side-to-side place. Once again, the exact same settings as the stock bearings. And we're throwing a 1/4 ounce casting plug in case you didn't know. So let's go. (109 feet 7 inches). (110 foot 2 inches). (113 feet 9 inches). Whew. 109 feet 6 inches. (109 feet 10 inches). (112 feet 3 inches). Okay guys, I am back from the casting field and there are quite a few interesting results here. So let's get into it. Now the first thing that was interesting was how short the Revo Elite IB casted the 1/4 ounce casting plug. Now this thing has all the makings to be a bomb caster, and I remember back in the day this thing being a really long caster from what I remembered. Now granted, it's been quite a few years since I've casted this reel, but I was expecting it to hit around 50 yards or close to it, especially with the clean bearings. So I'm not sure what was going on. It might be a classic case of a reel being a great caster in isolation. Okay, so let's get to these results. Now in the last test of the Czb Bushings versus clean ball bearings, of course I had the test reel as the Concept Z, and the bushings barely squeaked out a victory over the clean ball bearings in that test. Now this test doesn't take a math major or an Einstein level IQ to know that the bearings beat out the bushings this time around just by looking at the numbers as I flash them up on the screen. Now the question is, how bad did the bushings lose? Now the bushings averaged 110.8 feet over 6 casts, while the bearings averaged 124.8 feet over 6 casts. So you're looking at a 14-foot win, or almost 5 yards for the bearings. And yeah, so quite an interesting result there when you stick these bushings and bearings in a different reel other than the Concept Z. Now, a couple of things to note to get the best performance out of the bushings. In pre-measurement, I did two things. I did a lot of pre-measured casting with the spool tension set to just to minimize the side-to-side play as usual. And then I did a lot of pre-measured casting with the spool tension set tight to where when the plug hit the ground, there was only a couple of loops of overrun there. And when I did that, the casting distances dropped by almost 10 feet. So in the case of the Abu Garcia, a loose spool tension is going to yield the best results if you decide to get these bushings. Now let's talk about, did oiling the bushings solve that noise or buzzing? The answer is yes and no. Now what it did was it quieted down the bushings during the first part of the cast, but towards the last part of the cast, the latter end, when the spool was slowing down, you can definitely hear and feel that buzzing coming back on. Now, it wasn't as strong as in the Concept Z. I don't know if that's because the Elite IB has a, I think a full metal frame and both side plates may be metal. But yeah, and it's also worth noting that when I was waiting around in between casts for the wind to die down, I was basically just pitching that plug around, and the bushings actually made a buzzing noise when pitching throughout the whole pitch on several pitches. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with these bushings. As I said before, a lot of guys are probably gonna say, well, you shouldn't have messed with the bushings, you shouldn't have taken them on and off so much. But you gotta ask yourself this: when 13 Fishing sends you these bushing packs, you're gonna have to handle these bushings to install them on your reel. Now, will they come pre-lubed with whatever lube they had on there? I don't know. And will 13 Fishing offer some kind of lubricant for sale just for these bushings? Of course, that's something you're gonna have to ask them. Okay, so this time around, the bushings lost. Now, if you don't care about casting distance or noise, and you want to get these just for the anti-rust or rust-free properties of these bushings, then great. I would say go ahead and get a pack. But for my style of fishing, where I value performance, then they're just not going to be for me. Now, the next question is, and this is something I want you guys, especially you Shimano guys, to leave in the comments, is when these bushings become available, do you want me to get a set and stick them in Shimano to see if they're going to perform better than the stock bushings? So enough people leave a comment and want to see that, then I will definitely buy a set and do that test. Alright guys, thanks a lot.